Ladies and gentlemen, there exists a hidden truth in every soul, a truth that waits in silence, veiled beneath layers of fear, doubt, and the weight of the world's expectations. Many live their lives unaware of this inner treasure, but those who awaken to it radiate a strength that cannot be shaken. The secret is this: true confidence does not come from the masks we wear, nor from the approval of the crowd, nor from the fleeting recognition of status or possessions. It emerges when one confronts the shadow, the forgotten parts of the self that are often denied, repressed, or feared. To embrace the shadow is to reclaim lost power. It is to say, I will no longer exile the parts of me that do not fit the image others expect. In doing so, the individual becomes whole, for wholeness is not perfection. It is the union of opposites. Strength does not arise from never doubting, but from standing firm even when doubt whispers. Confidence, then, is not loud. It is not the performance of certainty. It is quiet, steady, rooted. It is the calm flame that burns even in the winds of chaos. Those who possess it have made peace with themselves. They have looked inward and discovered that the truest authority does not reside outside, but within. And so, the secret is not a technique or a borrowed philosophy. It is the act of individuation, to know oneself fully, to integrate the light and the dark, the fear and the courage, the weakness and the strength. In this unity lies an authenticity that the world recognizes instantly. The confident soul moves not with arrogance, but with grounded presence. Their power does not dominate, it liberates. They walk with clarity because they have faced their inner storms and emerged whole. This is the secret. Confidence is not found in comparison, but in self-realization. It is not something given by the world. It is something revealed when one embraces the depths of their own being. True confidence arises from within, and it cannot be handed down by the applause of others, nor can it be borrowed from the fleeting symbols of power that society parades before our eyes. Many chase recognition, imagining that the moment they are acknowledged, the moment their achievements are praised, they will finally feel whole. Yet this search is endless, because external approval is a flame that burns bright for an instant and then vanishes, leaving the soul hungry for more. To anchor one's sense of worth in the opinions of others is to live in constant exile from the self, always at the mercy of shifting winds. What one day is admired may the next be condemned. And so the person who builds their confidence on the world's approval is destined to collapse when that approval fades. Confidence that endures must be rooted in something deeper, something unshaken by circumstance. It is not a performance. It is not the mask of certainty worn to hide insecurity. It is the quiet conviction that grows from within, the recognition that one's value does not depend on how others see them, but on how fully they accept and embody their own being. This kind of confidence cannot be purchased, cannot be taught by imitation, and cannot be stolen from another. It emerges when the individual dares to look inward, to meet themselves without illusion, and to embrace what they find there. Many fear this journey inward, because the self is not only composed of what is admirable, but also of what is hidden, denied, or rejected. We are often conditioned to present only the parts of ourselves that seem acceptable, polishing an image that conforms to expectation while burying the rest. But what is buried does not disappear. It gathers strength in the shadows, whispering through our doubts, haunting us through our fears, pulling us down whenever we try to stand tall. True confidence cannot be built on half of the self. To know lasting strength, one must face both the light and the darkness within. When a person no longer flees from themselves, when they stop measuring their worth against the yardstick of others, something profound happens. They begin to carry a stillness, a groundedness that cannot be shaken by external noise. They no longer ask, "Do I appear enough in the eyes of others?" but instead live by the deeper question, "Am I aligned with the truth of who I am?" This shift transforms the entire way they walk through life. Instead of chasing validation, they radiate presence. Instead of clinging to recognition, they embody dignity. Consider the person who stands in a crowd without needing to speak loudly or draw attention, yet others turn to look at them. Why? Because there is something undeniable about a human being who is at peace with themselves. Their confidence is not theatrical. It does not need to announce itself. It exists as naturally as the warmth of the sun or the firmness of the earth. It is an energy that resonates precisely because it is not dependent on performance. Confidence born from within is not arrogant, for arrogance is a fragile shell meant to disguise insecurity. True confidence is humble because it is not concerned with proving anything. It does not need to compete or compare. It recognizes that self-worth is not a contest. When rooted in inner truth, one can look upon others without envy, for no one else can take away what is authentically one's own. This is why such confidence feels liberating, not only to the person who possesses it, but also to those around them. It gives others permission to be themselves as well. Yet the world often teaches the opposite. From a young age, people are told to seek approval, to be measured by grades, appearance, wealth, or achievement. They are taught that their worth is reflected in how well they can meet standards set outside of themselves. But what happens when those standards shift, when the applause stops, when the roles change? The identity built on these fragile pillars begins to crumble. This is why so many find themselves lost, even after achieving what they thought would bring certainty. They arrive at success only to realize it has not given them the inner solidity they longed for. The secret, then, is simple but not easy. Confidence must be grown from within. It requires courage to step back from the noise of the world and to listen instead to the inner voice that is often drowned out. It demands honesty, for one must admit both strengths and weaknesses without distortion. It calls for compassion, because true self-acceptance cannot come from judgment, but from understanding. And above all, it requires patience, for this is not the work of a single moment, but of a lifetime. To walk this path is to undergo a kind of transformation. It is to turn away from the endless chase for validation and to discover a source of strength that does not waver with time. When this happens, the individual is no longer enslaved to opinion, no longer restless in the face of doubt. They become steady, like a tree with deep roots, bending in the storms but never breaking. They carry a quiet authority, one that does not demand recognition yet receives it naturally, because it reflects something universal, the truth that every soul longs to embody. In the end, the world does not remember those who shouted the loudest about their worth. It remembers those who carried themselves with authenticity, those who dared to be whole, those who lived in alignment with their inner truth. Confidence is not about being seen by others. It is about truly seeing oneself. And once one has seen themselves, embraced themselves, and stood firmly in their own being, nothing outside can take that away. This is why true confidence can never be borrowed, bought, or begged for. It must be claimed by the self, within the self, through the courageous act of self-realization. And once it is found, it becomes unshakable. Embracing the shadow self unlocks hidden strength, for within the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or fear, lies the very power we often seek in the outside world. Many imagine that confidence and strength are born from polishing the self into something flawless, removing all weakness and displaying only what is admirable. Yet this approach divides the soul. It creates a mask that hides what is unwanted, but in doing so, the individual becomes fragmented. True confidence cannot emerge from fragmentation, for strength requires wholeness. Only by embracing the shadow, the unseen, the disowned, the neglected aspects of our being, can one awaken the inner force that has been silently waiting. The shadow is not the enemy. It is the mirror that reflects the parts of ourselves we fear to acknowledge. It may hold anger, jealousy, vulnerability, desires we have been taught to suppress, or wounds we have buried. At first it appears dark, threatening, even dangerous, but it is only dangerous when ignored. What is repressed gains power in secrecy. What is faced loses its grip. Those who hide from their shadow find themselves haunted by it. It seeps out through insecurity, fear, and self-doubt, undermining their attempts to appear confident. Yet those who face it, who welcome it into the light, discover that within the shadow lies energy, creativity, and vitality that were once cut off. To embrace the shadow is to reclaim lost power. Every time we deny a part of ourselves, we exile some of our strength along with it. When anger is denied, so too is the courage that anger can transform into. When vulnerability is rejected, so too is the capacity for deep connection and empathy. When desire is shamed, so too is the fire that drives creation. The shadow holds not only what is painful, but also what is essential for wholeness. It is the reservoir of the unlived life, the aspects of our potential we have not yet claimed. The journey of confidence is not the journey of perfection, but of integration. To stand firm in oneself, one must be willing to say, I am both light and dark, both strength and weakness, both love and fear. This is not resignation but empowerment, for when the shadow is embraced, it no longer sabotages from the depths. Instead, it becomes an ally. Anger becomes assertion, fear becomes wisdom, vulnerability becomes intimacy, desire becomes passion. The energy once trapped in repression is now available to fuel authenticity. It is a paradox that what we fear most within ourselves often holds the very key to our freedom. People hide from their flaws, believing that to reveal them would invite rejection. Yet it is when we own our flaws, when we cease pretending to be only one thing, that others begin to trust us. Confidence is not about convincing others of our perfection. It is about embodying our wholeness so completely that we no longer fear being seen. When we integrate the shadow, we stop hiding, and this honesty radiates a strength far greater than the brittle facade of perfection ever could. Consider the individual who has never acknowledged their fear. Outwardly, they may appear bold, but within, the fear festers, quietly steering their choices. They avoid risks, shrink from opportunities, and hesitate in decisive moments. Now consider the individual who admits, yes, I feel fear. By accepting it, by bringing it into the light, they discover that fear does not have to control them. It becomes one voice among many, not the dictator of their destiny. The act of embracing fear paradoxically grants freedom from it. The same is true for all shadow aspects. When we embrace them, they cease to enslave us. The world often teaches us to deny the shadow. We are told to hide our emotions, suppress our doubts, silence our desires, and cover our wounds. But this denial does not erase them. It strengthens them. The person who denies anger becomes explosive when provoked. The one who denies weakness becomes brittle under pressure. The one who denies sadness becomes numb to joy. But the one who embraces the full spectrum of their being becomes resilient, for nothing within them is alien anymore. They are no longer divided, and so they are no longer fragile. Confidence built upon the shadow's integration has a different quality than confidence built upon denial. It is not fragile, not dependent on constant reassurance. It is rooted in reality. Such a person does not fear being exposed, for they have already exposed themselves to themselves. They no longer fear rejection, for they no longer reject their own depths. They carry a presence that is undeniable because it comes from authenticity. Others sense that they are whole, and wholeness commands respect. To walk this path requires courage, for the shadow is not easy to face. It may show us wounds from our past, mistakes we regret, impulses we resist. But courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to meet it. Those who dare to embrace their shadow find that it does not destroy them, but transforms them. They emerge stronger, fuller, more alive. They discover that within the darkness of the unconscious lies a light that belongs uniquely to them. And so, the secret strength of true confidence lies not in denying the shadow, but in befriending it. To embrace the shadow is to step into one's totality. It is to walk through life no longer fearing what lies within, but drawing upon it as a source of power. The individual who has done this radiates a confidence that cannot be shaken, for they are no longer at war with themselves. They have become whole. This wholeness is the foundation of true confidence, for when nothing inside is disowned, nothing outside can threaten one's sense of self. This is the hidden strength that lies waiting in every human soul, the strength that comes when we finally embrace the shadow. Wholeness is greater than perfection, for perfection is a fragile illusion, while wholeness is the truth of being. Many strive endlessly for perfection, polishing themselves, cutting away their flaws, trying to appear as something complete in the eyes of others. But perfection is a mask, a performance designed to conceal the messy reality of existence. It is brittle, for the moment one cracks, the illusion shatters. Perfection is built upon denial, denial of weakness, denial of failure, denial of shadow. Wholeness, however, is built upon acceptance. It does not deny, it embraces. It does not hide, it reveals. And it is in this embrace, this union of all aspects of the self, that true confidence is born. The pursuit of perfection often becomes a prison. One who chases it is never satisfied, for there is always some flaw to erase, always some comparison to fall short against. Perfection whispers that we must never stumble, never doubt, never falter. It demands that we show only the polished surface, never the raw truth beneath. And so, many walk through life as performers, smiling when they are in pain, projecting certainty when they are afraid, presenting success even when they feel hollow. This performance may impress others for a time, but it drains the soul. For to live in performance is to live divided, estranged from one's authentic self. Wholeness, on the other hand, liberates. To be whole is to say, I contain contradictions, I hold both strength and weakness, I am both light and shadow. It is to know that confidence does not come from erasing imperfection, but from embracing all that we are. When one accepts both the polished and the rough, both the noble and the flawed, they are no longer trapped in the exhausting chase for a flawless image. Instead, they stand rooted in reality, unshaken by the shifting judgments of others. There is immense strength in admitting imperfection. The person who claims to be flawless is easily broken when their flaws are revealed. But the person who accepts their flaws disarms criticism before it can wound. If one says, yes, I am imperfect, and I am still worthy, there is nothing left to prove, nothing left to fear. This is the paradox of wholeness. By embracing the very imperfections we wish to hide, we discover a deeper sense of completeness. Wholeness also brings resilience. Perfectionism collapses under failure, for failure exposes the lie, but wholeness absorbs failure, integrates it, learns from it, and grows stronger. The whole person knows that mistakes do not diminish worth, they enrich wisdom. They know that doubt does not erase strength, it sharpens it. They understand that to stumble is not to fall apart, but to be reminded of one's humanity. It is this resilience, this capacity to endure and to rise, that radiates as unshakable confidence. Consider the difference between a glass vase and a tree. The vase, polished to perfection, shatters at the slightest impact. The tree, with its knots, scars, and irregularities, bends with the storm and endures. Perfection is like the vase, delicate, brittle, easily broken. Wholeness is like the tree, strong not because it is flawless, but because it has integrated its flaws into its form. The scars of the tree are not weaknesses. They are signs of survival, proof of resilience. In the same way, our imperfections, when embraced, become marks of authenticity, reminders of the battles we have faced and overcome. Confidence born of perfection is anxious, for it constantly fears exposure. It is always performing, always protecting the image, but confidence born of wholeness is peaceful. It has nothing to hide. It has accepted the totality of the self, and therefore cannot be threatened by judgment. This kind of confidence does not boast. It simply is. It does not demand recognition. It radiates naturally. Others feel it because it carries the weight of truth. Wholeness also deepens connection. Perfection isolates, for it creates distance between the polished image and the messy reality others live in. People may admire perfection from afar, but they cannot truly connect with it, for it feels unattainable, inhuman. Wholeness, however, invites intimacy. When we reveal our imperfections, when we show ourselves as we truly are, we allow others to do the same. We create spaces where honesty flourishes, where authenticity replaces performance. True confidence does not separate us from others. It draws us closer because it comes from the courage to be real. To live in wholeness is to reclaim freedom. The person who strives for perfection is bound by endless rules. I must not fail. I must not doubt. I must always appear strong. But the whole person is free. They can fail and learn. They can doubt and still move forward. They can show weakness without shame. This freedom is the foundation of lasting confidence, for it is not tied to appearances but to reality. It does not waver when flaws are exposed, for flaws have already been accepted. It does not crumble in the face of imperfection, for imperfection has already been integrated. And so, the secret is revealed. Wholeness is greater than perfection because it is real. Perfection is an illusion that breaks under pressure, but wholeness is the truth that endures. When we cease to chase the impossible and instead embrace the totality of who we are, we discover a confidence that is steady, humble, and unshakable. Confidence is not the mask of perfection. It is the courage of authenticity. It is the willingness to stand as we are, unpolished, complex, human, and whole. Those who live in this way radiate a presence that cannot be ignored, for they embody the rare freedom of being at peace with themselves. This is the strength the world longs to see, and this is the secret that confident souls carry. Wholeness is the true perfection. Confidence is quiet, steady, and rooted. It does not shout or demand attention. It is not a performance for the world to applaud. It is a presence, subtle yet undeniable, like the warmth of the sun that does not announce itself but is felt by all. Many mistake confidence for volume, for the ability to dominate, for the skill of always speaking first or standing tallest. But these are often disguises, masks worn to conceal inner fragility. True confidence does not require spectacle, for it rests not on the shifting ground of appearances, but on the deep soil of self-knowledge. The quietness of confidence is not weakness, it is depth. A river does not need to declare its strength, yet it carves valleys and nourishes life. The mountain does not boast of its height, yet its presence is immovable. In the same way, the truly confident soul does not need to proclaim themselves, for their very being communicates solidity. They do not chase recognition, yet recognition comes naturally. Their silence holds more weight than the noise of those who seek to prove themselves. To be steady is to remain grounded in the face of storms. Life will always bring challenges, failures, criticisms, and doubts. The false confidence of arrogance collapses under such pressure, for it is brittle, built on denial of weakness. But the steady confidence that grows from within does not shatter when tested. It bends like the oak tree in the wind, but its roots are deep, and so it remains. This steadiness is not the absence of fear or uncertainty, but the decision to stand firm even when they arise. It is the knowledge that one's worth is not shaken by external chaos. Rootedness is the foundation of this kind of confidence. To be rooted is to know oneself, to be anchored in truth rather than swayed by opinion. The one who is rooted does not chase trends or bend to every expectation. They are not defined by applause or criticism, success or failure. Their roots go deeper than circumstance, drawing strength from the inner ground of authenticity. Such a person can walk into any room and need not announce who they are, for their presence speaks it silently. They have nothing to prove, and paradoxically, this is why they are respected. Quiet confidence is not passive. It does not shrink or retreat. It simply does not waste energy on unnecessary display. It moves with intention, speaks with clarity, and acts from conviction. Its power lies in restraint, in choosing not to be controlled by the need for validation. When such a person speaks, their words carry weight because they are not thrown carelessly to gain attention. When they act, their actions inspire because they are not rooted in insecurity, but in purpose. This kind of confidence is often misunderstood in a world that prizes noise, competition, and display. Society teaches us to equate confidence with visibility, to assume that the loudest is the strongest, the boldest the most secure. Yet time reveals the truth, noise fades, but presence endures. The truly confident may be overlooked at first, but they cannot be ignored forever, because authenticity always reveals itself. People are drawn not to the one who boasts, but to the one who radiates quiet certainty. To embody quiet, steady, rooted confidence requires inner work. It requires turning inward, facing one's fears, and integrating the shadow. It requires letting go of the need to prove, and instead choosing to be. It requires patience, for roots do not grow overnight. A tree that stands tall has spent years sinking its roots deep into the soil. In the same way, confidence that endures comes from years of facing truth, embracing imperfection, and choosing authenticity over performance. There is a calm power in such confidence. It does not rise and fall with the moods of others. It is not shaken by praise nor destroyed by criticism. It stands, steady as the earth itself, unbothered by the passing of storms. This calm power is what makes it so magnetic. Others sense it. They feel safer in its presence, for it does not compete or demand. It simply exists, and in existing fully it inspires. True confidence is not the loud declaration, "I am strong." It is the quiet truth, "I know who I am." The one who carries this truth does not seek to dominate, for they have no need to. Their strength is not measured by how many they can silence, but by how deeply they listen. Their authority is not taken by force, but given freely by those who recognize their authenticity. And perhaps this is the greatest paradox: the quieter the confidence, the louder its impact. Noise fades quickly, but presence lingers in memory. Arrogance demands recognition but earns resentment. True confidence asks for nothing, yet receives respect. It is not a performance of strength. It is strength itself, expressed without effort. To cultivate this kind of confidence is to live in alignment with oneself. It is to let go of the restless chase for approval and to rest instead in authenticity. It is to know that worth is not measured by the reactions of others, but by the integrity of one's being. From this place of rootedness, a person becomes unshakable. They no longer need to shout to be seen. They no longer need to compete to feel valuable. They stand as they are, whole, and this wholeness speaks more loudly than any performance could. In the end, the world does not need more noise. It does not need more performances of strength. It longs for authenticity, for presence, for those who embody quiet, steady, rooted confidence. Such individuals remind us of what it means to be human, to be whole, to be real, and it is in their presence that others find the courage to quiet their own noise and return to themselves. Individuation is the secret to inner authority, for it is the process of becoming whole, of uniting the many fragments of the self into a single, authentic being. Many live their lives cut off from their inner depths, shaped by the expectations of others, enslaved by the standards of society, and bound by unconscious patterns. They mistake imitation for identity and conformity for strength. But to truly possess inner authority is to step out of this borrowed life and into the truth of one's own being. It is to realize that the greatest power is not the ability to control the world, but the ability to govern oneself. Individuation is not the path of ease. It demands that one turns inward, away from the noise of the world, and confronts the reality of who they are. This means facing not only the admirable, but also the uncomfortable, not only the light, but also the shadow. It means questioning the masks that have been worn for so long that they have begun to feel like skin. Individuation requires stripping away the false layers until only the true self remains, raw, unpolished, but undeniably real. From this authenticity, inner authority emerges. Authority built upon externals, titles, wealth, appearance, or recognition, can be lost in a moment. These are fragile pillars, subject to time and circumstance. But inner authority, the authority that comes from individuation, cannot be taken away. It does not depend on applause, on roles, or on possessions. It is rooted in self-knowledge. The person who has individuated knows who they are, and because of this, they cannot be swayed by the shifting tides of opinion or the changing winds of circumstance. They are anchored in something deeper, something eternal. The individuated person no longer seeks validation outside of themselves, for they have discovered validation within. They no longer need to measure their worth against the yardstick of others, for their worth is self-evident. This does not make them arrogant, but grounded. Their authority is not loud or forceful. It is calm and undeniable. Others sense it, even if they cannot name it. It is the aura of someone who has integrated all parts of themselves and stands whole. Individuation also brings freedom. Before individuation, a person is bound by unconscious forces, the expectations of parents, the conditioning of society, the wounds of the past, the hidden desires and fears of the shadow. These forces pull them in many directions, leaving them restless, conflicted, uncertain. But individuation brings these forces into awareness, integrates them, and transforms them into allies. The individuated person is no longer a puppet of the unconscious. They act not out of compulsion, but out of choice. This freedom is the essence of inner authority, for the one who governs themselves cannot be governed by others. To individuate is to discover the self, the center that holds all opposites together. It is to realize that we are not just the roles we play, the images we project, or the identities we borrow. Beneath all of these lies a deeper reality, a unity that contains all contradictions. The self is the source of true authority, for it is the only part of us that is not dependent on the shifting external world. When a person touches this center, they gain a strength that is not shaken by success or failure, not diminished by doubt, not destroyed by loss. Inner authority does not seek to dominate others. It does not impose itself through fear or control. Instead, it radiates naturally, like light from a flame. The individuated person leads not because they demand to, but because their presence inspires trust. People are drawn to them not out of submission, but out of recognition. They sense in them a wholeness that they themselves long for. This is why inner authority has such profound impact. It does not enslave, it liberates. The path of individuation is deeply personal. No two journeys are the same, for each soul carries its own unique patterns, wounds, and potentials. Yet the principle is universal. To become whole, one must integrate the many sides of oneself. One must face the shadow and reclaim its power. One must embrace imperfection and discover strength in vulnerability. One must let go of the borrowed voices of others and listen instead to the voice within. This journey is lifelong, but every step taken brings greater authenticity, deeper confidence, and stronger authority. The individuated person no longer fears solitude, for they have discovered the fullness within themselves. They no longer fear rejection, for they no longer reject themselves. They no longer fear failure, for they have learned that failure is part of growth. In their wholeness, they are resilient, steady, and free. This freedom is what gives their words weight, their actions meaning, and their presence authority. In a world obsessed with external validation, individuation is a radical act. It is the choice to step away from the noise of competition and comparison and instead root oneself in authenticity. It is the courage to say, I will no longer live as a reflection of others' expectations. I will live as myself. From this choice flows a power that cannot be shaken. This is the secret of true confidence, inner authority born of individuation. Those who carry this inner authority may not always be the loudest, the most visible, or the most celebrated, but their impact endures, for it is not built on performance but on truth. Their presence shifts the atmosphere of a room. Their words resonate long after they are spoken, and their lives become examples of what it means to live whole. This is the strength that arises when one has individuated, when one has claimed their true self. The path is demanding, but the reward is beyond measure. To individuate is to awaken to the fullness of who you are. It is to reclaim your own power, to walk with unshakable confidence, and to radiate an authority that no one can give and no one can take away. This is the secret that the confident know. Individuation is the foundation of inner authority, and from it flows a confidence that is eternal. Authenticity liberates others, for when one dares to live as their true self, they become a mirror that shows others their own hidden strength. Most people walk through life wearing masks, trying to be what the world expects. They silence parts of themselves, polish what they think will be accepted, and hide what feels too vulnerable to reveal. This performance may win temporary approval, but it also creates isolation. Beneath the applause, the individual feels unseen, for what is being praised is only the mask, not the true self. But when someone chooses authenticity, when they stand as they are flawed, complex, whole, they give others permission to do the same. Their confidence becomes contagious, not because it seeks to dominate, but because it embodies freedom. Authenticity is powerful because it is rare. In a world filled with images and illusions, the presence of someone real feels like a breath of fresh air. People are drawn to them, not because they are perfect, but because they are genuine. Their imperfections are not weaknesses but proof of courage, for it takes great strength to show oneself honestly. This honesty creates trust. Others feel safe in their presence, safe to drop their own masks, safe to be human. And in this shared humanity, true connection is born. The liberating power of authenticity lies in its refusal to conform to false standards. The authentic individual does not seek to impress, but to express. They live not according to what others demand, but according to the truth within. This inner alignment radiates as confidence, for when one no longer fears exposure, nothing can hold them back. They can walk into any situation without the restless question, "Am I enough?" Because they already know the answer. They are not pretending to be anything. They simply are. And this simplicity is liberating to all who witness it. To be authentic is not to be flawless. It is to be whole. It is to say, I contain strength and weakness, light and shadow, beauty and imperfection, and I embrace them all. This embrace disarms the need for performance. It removes the exhausting burden of constantly proving oneself. Instead of chasing approval, the authentic soul stands rooted in self-acceptance, and this rootedness creates a ripple effect. Others who see it feel inspired to reclaim the parts of themselves they have denied. In this way, authenticity becomes an act of service, not only freeing the one who embodies it, but also freeing those around them. Authenticity also transforms relationships. When people interact from behind masks, their connections remain shallow. They relate image to image, never soul to soul. But when one person dares to drop the mask, it opens a doorway for depth. Conversations shift from performance to honesty, from competition to understanding. Trust deepens because authenticity has no hidden agenda. It has no need to manipulate or impress. It simply reveals. This revelation draws others closer, for it touches something universal, the longing to be seen and accepted as we truly are. The confident soul knows that authenticity is more powerful than any performance. Performance may win temporary admiration, but authenticity wins lasting respect. Performance may inspire envy, but authenticity inspires courage. Performance may elevate someone above others, but authenticity lifts everyone together. It reminds people of their own worth, their own capacity to be real, their own freedom to stop pretending. This is why authenticity liberates. It breaks the chains of comparison and invites people into the freedom of self-acceptance. Yet authenticity requires courage, for it means standing vulnerable in a world that often rewards masks. It means risking rejection, misunderstanding, or criticism. But the rejection of the mask is never a true rejection. It is only the refusal of an illusion. What remains is deeper, for those who resonate with authenticity resonate with the truth. They see themselves reflected in it, and they are drawn closer, not by perfection, but by humanity. This is why authenticity does not isolate, it gathers. It may repel what is false, but it attracts what is true. Living Authentically also transforms the self. The one who hides is divided within, torn between what they feel and what they show. This division breeds insecurity, for it creates a constant fear of being discovered. But when the mask is dropped, the division heals. There is no longer a hidden self and a presented self. There is only one self. This unity creates inner peace, and peace radiates as confidence. The authentic person is no longer restless, for they no longer run from themselves. They carry a calm presence, the kind that others feel without a word. Authenticity liberates not only the present but also the future, for when one lives authentically, they no longer chase the endless pursuit of external approval. They are free to follow their true calling, to create, to love, to serve, not for recognition but for fulfillment. Their path may not always be easy, but it will always be theirs. And this ownership of life is the deepest form of freedom. It is a confidence that does not fade, for it is rooted in truth. In the end, authenticity is the greatest gift one can give, to oneself and to others. To oneself, it is the gift of freedom, of no longer needing to hide, of finally being whole. To others, it is the gift of inspiration, of showing that it is possible to live true. Each act of authenticity sends ripples outward, encouraging others to step into their own truth. In this way, authenticity multiplies. It spreads like light, not forcing, but inviting, not demanding, but liberating. This is the secret that confident souls carry. Their strength does not come from pretending to be perfect, but from daring to be real. And in being real, they awaken the same strength in those who witness them. Confidence built on authenticity is not just personal, it is collective. It creates freedom not only for oneself, but for all.